47th verse, Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi Swatmanye Akhilam Jagat Ekam cha sarvamatmanam ikshate jnana chakshusha. So the jnana chakshu, which we talk as the eye of wisdom, with that eye of wisdom, a realized soul a man of complete enlightenment, means a man of realization, sees his own self as the one self everywhere. In fact, verses 47 to 53 is talking about how a self-realized person merges with the Brahman. So these are the set of verses we're talking about. What is that enlightened experience? It's rather difficult to understand that experience from a conditioned stance as we are, because we are trying to understand that unconditioned state from a conditioned standpoint. It's rather very difficult. So, but only we got to take a note apart from the concept which we have enhanced over last few discussions, is that eye of wisdom. Now, how does one gain this wisdom? It is important. It is very, very important that we need to bring about a sense of integration into our spiritual sadhana. Even though we all are engaged with this knowledge, knowledge alone by itself doesn't have in it to remove the ignorance and reveal the self. So what do I mean by the integrated spiritual practices? The integrated practices are the three yogas, which is the karma yoga, which is performing unselfish or selfless work, which is dedicated to a higher cause. So you go about working unselfishly or selflessly. You also perform bhakti. Bhakti is nothing but a feeling of identification, a feeling of gratitude, a feeling of thankfulness. And then jnanam is the knowledge. So the three spiritual practices has to be integrated. It's like the simple mundane example of decoction, sugar and milk, which becomes a mug of a lovely coffee. But it is that right proportion. But with reference to an individual, the right proportion is based on your constitution. What is your physical constitution, your emotional constitution, and intellectual constitution? So when these three are integrated, you develop wisdom which destroys ignorance. Now, theoretically, knowledge alone can reach you realization. Bhakti alone can take you to salvation. Jnanam alone can give you enlightenment. But we are not entirely physical, entirely emotional, or entirely intellectual. Since there is that mixture of the three personalities, it is important to recognize the constitution of what is your proportion and do to that extent. For example, on an average, I would be sitting at steady on average minimum 8 hours or 10 hours in a day. I'm not talking in a week. In a day, I sit 8 to 10 hours from morning 4 till evening. By the time I get to bed, studying the scriptures, writing, revisiting your studies. So it's a lot of intellectual exercise. If I'm not designed for that percentage of intellection, I will go mad very soon. So you need, and if I don't give it to it, I will be frustrated because that is my requirement, intellection. And and then there is this extent of karma, extent of bhakti. So you need to understand, it's not often said nor highlighted, therefore I am mentioning. So if mere knowledge is taken without the element of devotion, you develop, as we understand, knowledge by itself gives you a head weight. Because if you put some weight on the head, what will happen? It will become heavy, Elia. And with so much of knowledge pumping, what will happen? Head weight will come. He thinks too much of himself. He thinks he only knows everything. Summa, he will keep talking. So to ensure that head weight doesn't come, you need to, the antidote for head weight is a little bit of humility you need. In fact, Gayatri Ma, she came this morning. She was there at the center. And I don't know whether she remembers what I said. Exam varika, enna sonna Gayatri Ma?
I should not get that feeling that arrogance should not come, that humility should come. So you keep on doing that.
In the context,
rehearsing writing for the next two.
The next 2 days later, there is this workshop, as you all are aware. So I was at my desk preparing the material, and then she was sitting with somebody else in another room. She walked into the other room where I was studying, and she, Guruji, you don't have to study. You can simply talk without even preparation. You have been, I said, Ma, that ahankar should not come, that I know everything and I can just walk into an event and mesmerize the audience. So just to make sure that ahankar doesn't come, I said, I've been applying myself with trying to jot down my points, write them, rewrite them, polish them. It could be the same thing. But imagine going through the exercise of just doing that writing. I had prepared a 30-page material for the workshop and trying to edit it, write it. And then when people come and give their points, I try to incorporate how best to communicate. That exercise itself is that which is important. It's not the question of whether how well I've communicated on that day. That is undeniably, that's the attempt and effort, and sincere efforts are being made. But never to walk into that stage or a platform thinking that you know it all. If that comes in, then there's no point of this knowledge. That's interesting to know, Ramji. The great Yesudas ji apparently said the same thing. Is there any specific context you can recall?
No, Guruji. No, I was in a flight and he was sitting next to me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he was going through a music book with all the notations, and he was practicing as we were in the flight. He was doing Tala and then he was practicing.
So you had that exclusive show by him?
Yeah. So I asked him, I mean, I don't know him. I was not introduced to him also. So I just said, sir, why do you have to do this? You're already an expert. Exactly what.
But you knew that he was Yesudas.
Yeah, it's very clear. I mean, you can
okay, right.
This was long back, 20 years back.
Okay.
So then he said, no, I cannot take it for granted. I can't be that arrogant. I have to practice every day. And then he spoke throughout the flight. He was talking. He told me about how he went through all the troubles because he's a Christian. He was not accepted in the elite Sangeet Sabhas of Chennai.
Right.
How he was insulted. All that he told me. So it was a nice conversation. But
Quite
this
fortunate.
stuck in my mind that what he said, that I can't be arrogant. I can't take it for granted. I have to practice every day. That is
If
a
you had,
sign of
sorry,
progress.
I don't know whether I would fall into that category, nor did I have any intention to fit into any category, sir.
No.
I did not know that, to be frank, I did not know I was going to say that statement.
Yeah.
I did not know that Lady Gayatri was going to walk in and have that kind of, she came in to pick up something from the room, and then some conversation like you got into it with him.
Yeah.
So it is just that it is essential, and if you want to leave a mark, for example, the fact that that man said that 20 years later you're narrating to me, to all of us, and we will keep narrating the rest of our lives, quoting the greatness of that man. It's not how much he knows, but that sadhana, that abhyasa is that is the essential.
That's
Very,
right.
very true. I'm so glad you said that. And so mere knowledge, so knowledge would give you arrogance. So how to offset that jnanam is you inculcate bhakti or devotion. So devotion comes as an antidote to offset the imbalance or the arrogance comes out of jnanam. See, there is no ahankar in wisdom, but there is ahankar in jnanam. You must differentiate it. Ahankar comes from jnanam, but there is no ahankar in vijnanam. Now, if I can ask this question to Vijay Raghavanji, I'll repeat the statements. I think maybe you not got the statement. There is ahankar in jnanam, but there is no ahankar in vijnanam. Vijnanam is wisdom. Why is it that there's ahankar associated with jnanam? Sir, I'm afraid we can't hear you. Is it only with me? Okay, even others can't hear you, sir. No. You are unmuted, but there's some technical thing. Sure, no problem. So, Reddy Garu, can you answer this question, sir? Why is it you think there is arrogance in knowledge, but there is no arrogance in wisdom?
Pranam Guruji, in my understanding, the ahankar is nothing but ego. So the moment you start learning, so as we just discussed that, I know, the moment I know that where the ahankaram start creeping into the mind.
You are actually expressing what that phrase or that word suggests, but my question is, why is it? Why is it that there is ahankar or that notion of knowing with jnanam, and it soon disappears the moment you get vijnanam, from the very jnanam?
But as you said, Guruji, that to gain the wisdom, the sense of integration of spiritual knowledge, the spiritual knowledge of the karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. So the moment we cultivate these three, so definitely that means that we are, the ahankar has been moved out and ruled out. That's where we're talking about gaining the wisdom.
It is, you're right, integration of all three. But wisdom is not knowledge, is not bhakti, is not karma. You can't say wisdom is these three. The combination and interaction of all this is wisdom. Like you can't say sugar is coffee. You can't say milk is coffee. You can't say decoction is coffee. The mixture of all that is coffee. So you can't say jnanam is wisdom. You can't say karma is wisdom. You can't say bhakti is wisdom.
But that's where, Guruji, the spiritual knowledge, there's integration will definitely dilute this ahankar.
Spiritual, sorry?
The spiritual integrations is knowledge is dilutes the ahankara, what we possess, which we obtain through jnana.
Yeah, but it also offsets the other elements in other drawbacks in bhakti, the other drawbacks in karma also. See, I only talked about a single drawback from jnanam. But no, you're right, you're right. But I'm still trying to get to that, why jnanam has that tendency, such pure knowledge, but how come it has arrogance in it? Right. Is Vijayji there or is he? I think he's logging in again. Right. Sidhuji, you want to say something?
Hari Om Guru.
Hari Om, sir.
Wisdom brings us vinayam, humility.
Yes.
So that removes arrogance.
You're talking about after the knowledge has gone through a certain process, but why does knowledge gives arrogance? You all are talking in
knowledge boosts ego. I become headstrong.
Why? How?
Because I think I know everything.
See, after a while, we are lost in words. We're saying the same thing. But in fact, you seem to have answered it. But the actual reason why knowledge gives about arrogance is because knowledge is only the raw material.
Yeah.
It is not the finished product.
Yeah.
It is just the raw material. It is useless to you.
When we do manana, it becomes a finished product. Reflection, contemplation.
Yes. Reflection, manana, and along with the other integration of karma and bhakti, the other two coming in, All right. Yes. So Vijayji, sorry, good to have you back. So hopefully it's resolved.
Resolved. I changed the device, Guruji. Thank you.
Are we all still operating the same? Or we are looking wiser?
Sorry, are you asking me, Guruji?
Yeah. When the system has changed, are we all looking any wiser?
Always look wise, Guruji.
Oh, thank you, Ji.
I was thinking, the question which I was, you asked me. I thought in a slightly perhaps different way. Perhaps knowledge, when you have knowledge, you concentrate on what you know. And wisdom possibly gives an idea as to what you don't know.
In fact, wisdom comes when you
know you don't know.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, very true. Very true. Yes, Jay, very true, very true. But it's just that the knowledge is of no big deal. So what we're trying to say is don't get carried away by all this information. It's useless. It doesn't mean anything. Yes, Rao Garu.
Jai Gurudev.
Namaskaram, sir.
The knowledge is there how to prepare a coffee. That is what you said, milk, sugar, coffee powder. But unless you prepare yourself or get it done, that is the process which if without knowing, and unless you experience the coffee. Suppose the koti is, I know the koti, the direction. Unless whether I go by walk or by vehicle or something, if I don't, that is the wisdom. Once you reach the koti, then otherwise koti just talking in like mantra 1000 times, I can't reach the koti.
Correct.
So I have to reach by way of the mode of transport. All this we should have then that is the wisdom. There you have, that is Vijnanam, that is called Vijnanam. Otherwise, just knowledge.
Correct. Absolutely. You're right. Very right. Nice analogy. Yes. Yes, Harish ji. I know that you have to say something. So,
How did you know, Guruji?
no, I know you enough, Ji. I only know that I know you enough. That's all.
No, I was just thinking, Guruji, that two sides of the same coin
Uh-huh.
is that one side is arrogance and one side is humility. If you look at it from one point of view, when you say that there is no, I have knowledge, and you say the emphasis on the I have the knowledge, or the I-ness or the minus, and that becomes arrogance.
Yes.
On the other side, when you realize that I have knowledge, but I only have knowledge because the knowledge could get in because there was a void there earlier. So there was no knowledge earlier. That is humility. So the realization that there was a lack of knowledge which led to the knowledge is the humility. The realization or the statement that I have it now is arrogance. So just two ways of looking at the same thing.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Either
You can
from
always,
the top of the mountain or from below the mountain.
it's either half full or half empty. Isn't it? Yeah. Very true. Yes, Harish ji.
If I take
what?
ATMABODHA as
Harish
an
ji,
example.
Harish ji, what is this lamp of wisdom next to you? The light of wisdom.
It's now, it is quite dark here. No.
I know you're struggling to lighten up your image. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. Sorry. Go ahead. Ji. Yes.
If I take ATMABODHA as an example, when I go through ATMABODHA, then I get the knowledge. Whereas when ATMABODHA goes through me, then I have wisdom. So
we all will
going through
contemplate.
ATMABODHA.
No, we all will contemplate on the statement tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
No, the statement you said, when I go through ATMABODHA, it is knowledge. When ATMABODHA goes through me is wisdom. This will be reflected by everybody tomorrow morning, I'm saying, sir. This is an Upanishadic statement,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah.
Kekada?
So that, yeah, thank you. I understood you.
Right, sir. It's a very profound statement you said, sir, I'm saying.
So if I only go through ATMABODHA, then there is a chance that I know it. Then I may have arrogance. You know, I may land up in having arrogance. But
Correct.
if ATMABODHA doesn't go through me, then that is the end of it.
Correct. We will make sure it will go through you, sir. Don't worry. Right. So, so knowledge without wisdom leads to knowledge without devotion. I'm sorry, leads to arrogance. Now, mere devotion, mere bhakti without knowledge leads to a fanatic attachment to some belief system. You believe in something and you hold on to that belief without any basis or reason. So where mind goes on its own, it develops attachment. So bhakti is predominance of the mind over head. It is the heart over head. So when heart predominates over the head, you develop an attachment. So to dislodge that attachment of fanaticism to your spiritual idols, you need to have knowledge to unsettle it. So the knowledge comes in and dislodges your fanatic attachment. So their knowledge helps in the respect of devotion. Okay, so knowledge without devotion leads to arrogance. Devotion without knowledge leads to fanaticism. And action without knowledge, what is action, which is karma? Karma without knowledge, what does it lead to? Shivaji, boliye.
Futile.
Sir, you need to switch to your data, sir. Voice is breaking. But I think I see you making a point in the chat box. You're saying it's futile. Yes. What happens? Mere action, karma without knowledge. What happens? What is karma here? Karma is unselfish work. Unselfish work when you perform without the knowledge backing it, action becomes, as Gayatri says, it becomes mechanical, it becomes futile. It doesn't give you an elevation. It's like you're going round in circles. It becomes stale, correct? Samyama is also saying it becomes stale, it becomes meaningless. So it's the knowledge that gives it the lift. As we don't learn in our studies that it is not what I do, but for what am I doing? I can be serving this knowledge, which is karma. The different grades of karma is there. But if that karma, if I'm not having an elevated goal, it becomes a mechanical exercise of doing classes. It's not the exercise of doing, but for what you do. Now, so when you bring in these elements of karma, bhakti, and jnanam, so when you do karma, it makes you ready for knowledge, because don't we learn in the Gita, he says, this knowledge is not designed for the non-sacrifices. If you are not a sacrificer, you're unfit for this knowledge. So karma makes you ready for jnanam. Karma helps you to worthy, fit for receiving knowledge. And knowledge and devotion and karma, all of them are interdependent. As we said, one without the other is useless. So it's important to find out what is your constitution, how much of physical, emotional, intellectual you are. That's important. So that you give your requirement. Okay. And when you do this, you slowly acquire the wisdom which the verse is talking about. Otherwise, wisdom doesn't come by doing the practices without proportioning. So you got to be very careful. Are you proportioning exactly what your requirement is? So you got to start thinking as to how do I go about finding out what my proportion is? Isn't that the essential thing you got to do? It's like the lady in the house or the chef who prepares food. She needs to know the proportion, isn't it? If the proportion goes haywire, if a spoon of salt goes extra more or a spoon of masala goes extra, it destroys the whole food. Or if the pinch of salt is less, you will feel the difference. It's as precise as that. That amount of clarity has to be brought into your sadhana. Now, not get into it, but you perhaps want to ponder on it, and then if there's something concerning, we can come back to it. Okay.